I think that we can start right now. Dear friends, participants of our symposium, good afternoon to all of you. My name is Kirill Tюрчев, and I am an expert at the Russian cluster observatory of the Institute for Statistical Studies and Economics of Knowledge. And today I will be the moderator of our session on the new technologies in city management. And I would like firstly to express my gratitude to the organizers of this symposium. Yesterday, we listened with great pleasure a lot of reports on creative industries and Forsaight studies. And today we will be mainly focusing on developing of new technologies and especially in public administration. I would also like to express my gratitude to our colleagues from the International Laboratory of Digital Transformation in Public Administration, which help us to organize this roundtable today. Thank you very much, dear colleagues. I want to say that today we will have an English-speaking session, so if anyone wants to hear us in Russian, please press the planet button on the bottom of your screen. Our translators will translate our today's reports in Russian, so I think it will be comfortable for all. Also, don't hesitate to ask your questions. Just raise your hand or type your question in chat. We will pronounce it, and I hope that everyone will hear answer on his questions today. So first of all, I would like to invite our guest from Brazil, Mr. Mauricio Simon Bosquela, who represents INSPER, to give a report. Dear Mr. Bosquela, the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kirill. Thank you very much, all the organizers, and also Jean, who we have had some talks before. So for me, it's a very honor to be part of this very important symposium and having some discussions to share some experience for Latin American Caribbean. Just like a quick background about my experience, I am graduated in computer science, then marketing and finance after graduation. And I work many years in Brazil in the technology industry, Itautec, and then I was director for Latin America for Intel Corporation based in São Paulo, Brazil. And then I started to work for Inter-American Development Bank, a multilateral bank based in Washington, D.C., overseeing Latin American Caribbean countries and trying to help them with urban development and economic sustainable development. So most of my background has done with technology and also supporting countries or clients or municipalities in leveraging the technology, solutions, and people in order to have better economic and sustainable social development. I'm going to share my presentation with you. Let me try to do it right now. So I hope you are seeing that. Okay. So I work for INSPER. It's an academic institution here in São Paulo. And specifically, I'm working for the future of the city's laboratory. And this is like a transversal and multi-sectoral laboratory with several nucleus. And I'm responsible for the smart city and big data nucleus, working directly to really accelerate the use of solutions in our territories. So the thing that I'm going to talk today is related to urban challenges. Then I'm going to bring some smarter, innovative cities with data and bring some examples. Before I talk about urban challenges and we look at the perspective of smart cities, many of us have the idea that smart cities has to do with technology. We understand that smart cities is like a concept that for sure wants to bring better quality of life for the people. But first, we need to think about what are the challenges we are trying to solve through a smart city or maybe other solutions. And that's what I'm going to address right now with you. So first, let's see what's the urban challenge we are currently facing in Latin American Caribbean countries. And I'm sure like you are facing in other countries in Europe, in Russia, everywhere around the world. But basically, those are related to Latin America and Caribbean, where most of my experience is related. So first, we look about Latin America. It's a big region where we have 80% or a little more than 80% of the population living in the cities. And we saw like this growth pretty much in the last 60 to 70 to 80 years happening in the cities, where people have been selecting the cities as a way to grow professionally, to find better education, healthcare, jobs, and so on. In Brazil, for example, in the last 50 years, our cities has absorbed more than 100 million new people. These people, maybe they migrate from the rural areas, or they were born in the cities. But what happens is that our cities in Brazil specifically have absorbed more than 100 million people in the last 50 years. So that's a big challenge for us, because our cities were not planned for this growth or this development, so very little planning and things like that. So this is one of the major challenges we are facing here, a very accelerated growth of people, but without a good planning. People, as I mentioned before, they are looking for the cities as a way to network, to find jobs, education for the people, and mainly they're finding jobs there also. So when they choose to move to the cities, and these cities are not really well planned, were not planned in the past, the urban development and things like that, challenges come as a consequence of that, but not necessarily as a consequence, but they are happening where we have a lot of people in the city. In Brazil, for example, we have more than 86% of the people living in the cities. We're a big country, 220 million new people. So one of the major challenges we are facing in Brazil is related to citizen security, criminality, and things related to the feeling of safety that we are facing in the cities. More and more, we are seeing cameras all over the cities, or maybe some well-developed neighborhoods. But this has been one of the major concerns of the people in the perception of insecurity. The other challenges we're facing in large cities, specifically São Paulo, where we have nearly 14 million people, the challenge is mobility and transportation. As we see this picture from São Paulo, we have many, many cars just going from one side to the other, whether the public transportation, sometimes they are not covering all the territory. So some people might take 1 to 2 hours to come from their homes to their jobs. So mobility is a big challenge, in addition to the emissions of these cars and also the accidents that are very, very critical. As an example, in São Paulo, that we also have many, many cars, many, many motorcycles, more than 1 million motorcycles traveling in the city. So in São Paulo, we have more than one person being killed by using motorcycles in their daily life. So more than 400 people are killed in the accidents in São Paulo. So accidents and mobility are another challenges. So we are seeing a big climate change, with some effects of climate change. In the left, we see a river in the Amazon where we never saw like a drought like that. So this affected the Amazon. That's the greenest area in Brazil. And also we saw a pretty much dry season there. In the right, we see a map of Brazil or some part of Latin America where we face a very, very high temperature. We had like 45 degrees Celsius in most of the country about a month ago. And in the bottom picture, we see some flooding. So this gives an example that we are facing the effects of climate change, either for drought or heat waves, or maybe flooding. And the municipalities and the government, they were not maybe prepared to deal with that. For sure, they need to respond to that the best way possible. So one of the consequences of the warm weather and so on is the dengue fever, that's Aedes aegypti. That's a mosquito that has affected more than 3 million people in Brazil during the last few months. And this is something that's really very, very high. the mortality is not very, very high, but we have thousands of people that got killed, that died because of this small mosquito. Maybe that's very similar, let's say, to malaria, but that's really affecting us. And this year was one year very, very difficult. And we don't know the next years, but this is a consequence of an epidemic based on the high weather, the heat weather, right? Also, another challenge we are facing in Latin America is the energy efficiency. First is the public lighting, where we still see municipalities using the sodium vapor lamps. And also we see internal of the buildings inefficiencies in the air conditioning, or maybe the lights, not too much use of LED lamps. But again, that's a challenge that affects some cities, mainly the cities in the Caribbean, where the energy is generated through to diesel and thermoelectrics. Accessibility, another thing that's facing here, we're seeing like a person with limited visibility. This is in Jamaica, where the sidewalks is very, very narrow. And, you know, a person sometimes have to share the sidewalks with a car. And in other cities, they might feel like very unstable sidewalks. And people with a limited capacity, mobility capacity, they will feel that. And sometimes these challenges are very distant from us because, you know, we can see pretty much the sidewalks and so on. But when you see some people with disabilities crossing the sidewalks, that's a challenge. And even if you are pushing like a baby cart, you feel like how difficult that might be. Digital inclusion, or maybe inclusion. We faced some challenges during COVID, but we're still facing where children, they were limited to accessing the internet or accessing computers, but we still have digital inclusion for older people or people vulnerable socially and so on. So those are some of the challenges we're facing. Here's an example of a response management in Barranquilla, Colombia. This was like 11 years ago, but gives an example or some of the response mechanism, excuse me, in some cities, they're still very old, obsolete, and they don't leverage the technology for that. So here, like a summary about, you know, the urban challenge we're facing. And in this situation, we say, okay, we are looking, again, for Latin America, we have 17,000 municipalities, more than 5,000 in Brazil. And if you look about these challenges, just an example of the challenges, we believe that we cannot manage our cities in a traditional way. It's very, very important that we take our cities to a smart cities with data. So this movement from a traditional management city to a smart city with data is very important, it's very fundamental for us to provide better management or better services for our population. So here's the definition of the smart city. This is based on a book called The Road Toward Smart Cities that I published when I worked for the Inter-American Development Bank. So this book has been very successful and is available in 3 languages, English, Portuguese, and Spanish. And we have nearly 180,000 downloads. And it's pretty much a guide for people who want to learn more about smart city, even though it's about maybe 7 or 8 years of being published. That's still very accurate because we caught the concept. But again, what's a smart city? The way we define a smart city with my colleagues was a smart city is one that places people at the center of development. So I want to highlight people because for us, smart city has to do with people, it's not technology. Incorporates ICTs or information communication technologies into urban management. So it's a way to facilitate, to make it easier for urban development or management, and use these elements as tools to stimulate the design of an effective government. So these, like people, technology, and process, is a way to use in the smart city to make the government more efficient. And includes collaborative planning and citizen participation. So important that the citizens has a role to participate. By promoting integrated and sustainable development, smart cities become more innovative, competitive, attractive, human, and resilient, improving the lives of the people. So for us, it was very important to have people, process, excuse me, and technologies as a way to improve the lives of the people. And Kirill, I don't know how I'm doing with time, but just in case, you let me know, okay?
That's fine. That's fine. You can continue. That's okay.
Okay, thank you. So these are some of the projects and case studies that I developed. I was directly involved in Latin America and the Caribbean. So maybe starting with the red side, case studies that we developed in collaboration with a company, CRIS, Korean Research Institute of Human Settlement in Korea. And we developed 10 case studies about best cases of smart cities, and I have the links in the next page. So we try to understand some commonalities between the cities, what they are doing, what are the challenges they're facing, what are the motivation and things like that. And I can go over more of that if you want later in the Q&A. And in the left side, the projects that are working directly in blue in different cities in Latin America, from Argentina to Uruguay and many others. So one thing that we did in this project, so that we design and so on, and we see in the bottom of the page, we work very close with the private sector, academy, consulting, and again, from the Inter-American Development Bank, where I was leading these projects. And we can say that we worked in projects for smart city, for example, Guadalajara in Mexico, where we started to work in a small neighborhood. So we started from a neighborhood, we worked in an island, for example, in Bahamas, in Nassau, where we created a project for smart cities, or we worked for a whole city, or maybe we worked for a metropolitan area, like in Argentina, Gran La Plata and Gran Mendoza, where we worked in a city, we developed some smart city projects that would allow collaboration between the different municipalities, part of a metropolitan area. So we developed several cases. The majority of these cases has to do with security, with mobility, response management, energy efficiency. This was in Bahamas. As I mentioned before, they have a lot of challenges in saving energy, but also they are very vulnerable to tornadoes, thunderstorms, and also floodings, okay? So this gives like a glimpse about the project that I worked directly, and we can talk more later if needed. And here we have all the publication of the 10 smart city case studies, and in the bottom, the smart city guide that I mentioned to you before. So with that, I want to show some examples of successful or maybe concept or maybe example of smart city implementation, considering the challenges, the municipality challenges that we're facing in the use of technology or leveraging the innovative technologies and solutions to bring better quality of life to their people. So the first one is Rio Operating Center. So I visited them and I worked directly with some people, and we have a case study. It's available in English as well, about Rio de Janeiro Operating Control Center. So in 2010, Rio de Janeiro was faced with a very, very important thunderstorm. So all of a sudden, the city got flooded, got in a chaos, so a city about 6 million people. And everything didn't work in that day. And the consequence was that they have more than maybe 50 or maybe 100 people that died in consequence of this, maybe landslides or accidents and things like that. From that time, the mayor, he decided to create an integrated center to give a response or give better coordination in natural disasters or emergency in the city. So they created this Rio de Janeiro Operating Control Center, where they have more than 30 agencies working collaboratively in mobility, in transportation, disasters management, like the metro, the buses, the security, and so on. So they have teams of people working individually, but working collaborative in this room. In case of any emergency, they have a response center, everything coordinated together. So it's my friend next share that I have to ask some questions and so on. And because they are also very vulnerable to climate, 3 times a day, the meteorologist goes in front of the center to talk about the predictions or maybe what they are seeing in terms of the forecast for the weather at the time. Here also they work with data. So they're using a lot of data to make analysis and also help define better ways to respond to cities' challenges, either in healthcare or maybe in housing or maybe transportation and so on. An example here, maybe a generic example of the monitoring of rivers and road. We know that sometimes everything there is like a rain in one part, and all of a sudden the river or the small streams are flooding and affects all the city. Here's like a concept about how to integrate different cameras and different sensors to identify or not predict, but have an early alert about a situation that might flood the road and people might get in an accident, or maybe they cannot cross this road. And this is important because in that case, the municipality needs to close the roads, needs to have alerts for the civil responders and things like that. That's adaptive traffic control system that's being adapted or used in some of the cities, where they use cameras and sensors, identify the flow of cars and people, and then organize or adapt the traffic systems according to the flow of cars or the flow of people especially during rush hours or hours for more movement. This is an example of what I mentioned about accessibility in the previous slides. This is a solution that was implemented in many cities, but also in Mexico City, where people like me and you and so on, since we are also walking in the streets, we are able to identify areas where they are not well suited for people with disabilities. So we are able to collect information, take pictures, inform, and then during this system called Sidewalk, this platform or solution, they are able to map the places where the accessibility is not convenient. In that sense, that helps not only the people with disability, but also the municipality in order to prevent or to organize or plan for better fixing or correction of the sidewalks. We use these maps or maybe this solution during COVID. So we had to map some of or maybe the places where have some interest, and this is like the solution is just down there to understand the time or maybe the how far or how long people would take to access a different health center or hospital. And you can see here the times in minutes, they vary from very close to very far. And you have example in Port Spain, in Trinidad and Tobago, Kingston, the capital of Jamaica, and Barbados as an island. What's the accessibility to health services? And this example also allows us to understand what the accessibility to schools. So if I want to plan a new school in a large city, I can evaluate, in a map, the distance, the road, is it far or not far, to make better and informed decisions. So this, I think, in addition to what we did during COVID, it's important to give ideas and highlights, insights about how to plan the expansion of new city equipments. Not sure about Russia, but in Brazil, in the last maybe 5 to 10 years, people have been using a lot the bikes. So there is a lot of incentive to use bike as an alternative mobility. So we call maybe active mobility. And so we have a lot of cyclo roads that be implemented. And one of the questions, as you are public management, we need to understand, is it working, is not working? What's the justification for implementing these cyclo roads? So one project done for Laboratory of São Paulo was to do some countings of people in front of a cyclo road in front of a building. So they use a very cheap camera and started to do the counting. It's important to mention this was done in 2017. So because of that, the engineers in the lab were able to convince the mayor of the importance of implementing these routes for people that are just moving around. And in this case, we also have information about the temperature, 33 degrees Celsius, humidity, and so on. And then again, we have like people using these bicycles at the time. That might be maybe easy today, we can understand, but using visual computing by 2017, it was really something interesting. Another question related to security. So this is an initiative that was done by the government of state of São Paulo with one marketing or maybe a company called Eletromedia, where they use this kind of screens in the bus stations, to inform, to do some advertising and so on. This situation specifically, they implemented this, let's say, maybe video conference tool in bus stations, where from 8 p.m. until 5 a.m. in certain locations of the cities, a lady or maybe a man who is feeling insecure and alone in the bus station, they can press a button and start a video conference. And in the other side, someone will have some talks, and in case of an emergency, will actionate the police to help the person in distress. Bahamas again. So we did a pilot when I was in the IDB in the emergency system. So as I mentioned, Bahamas, they are very vulnerable to tornadoes, big storms, hurricanes, and things like that. And sometimes things don't work pretty well. So we did this pilot project to unify all the message and activate different measures of response and also alerts for the population that was also able to select some specific perimeters within the islands to see where we should send these messages. This is something that we are using in some businesses, where sometimes you are calling to get a service, and they say, we're going to record your message, and then you start talking to the operator, and then they respond to you. So this case here, I brought an example about the call center we had the Inter-American Development Bank, like support center, where I might call them, say, I have a problem with my computer. And because that's an international bank, we have people who spoke English, Spanish, and Portuguese. So they were able to answer different questions. So these messages were being captured or recorded, and then like a software was translating or creating, creating the text from the voice. This was analyzed to analyze the text. So what are the problems they are facing, the major issues? And in addition to having this text analysis, also was used sentiment analysis to see the mood of the people, if they were happier or they were angry in the beginning and happier at the end. So this shows an example of managing to customer attention using the tools of computer. And this is very, very replicable to public services, where you are able to understand what are the most important services that people are requesting, or sometimes you are using bot. But again, you understand the major services and the major issues you are facing, and you are able to respond accordingly. Talking about innovation in startups, and also talk about public management and also modernization in public administrations. The city of Cordoba in Argentina, they were able to get a $1 million fund, they call it Smart City Fund, to create or to reinforce the startup and the entrepreneur ecosystem to bring more solution to modernize the public administration. This was a very important project that was led by the mayor, for the secretary of innovation, to really strengthen the capacity to innovate and experiment. So they were able to really bring innovation to the city because they faced that the city was having some challenges in bringing innovation to public administration. And these solutions were developed. They have a very positive results in jobs, in new startups, and so on. And they had a collaboration with the academy, public and private sectors, and also the ecosystem. And you have like the monitor here as a report from them. It's in Spanish, but I'm sure you're able to translate some parts if you want. With that, I want to say thank you very much. I think it's spasiba for you for the time. And it's been a pleasure, and I'm open for questions during this session. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Bascala. Very interesting report, a lot of experience. I am just excited. Regarding your question about bicycles, yes, we do love bicycles in Russia, but now you can see a lot of scooters also in the Russian streets. So yes, but the infrastructure, the mayor tries to develop infrastructure to users of bicycles and scooters. You know, I am very interested in the topic of venture capital market, and the last slide of yours was about GovTech Fund. I wonder, is it private or public fund?
So this one that you mean for Cordoba?
Yeah.
So this was a fund that was provided by Inter-American Development Bank, and also there is some counterpart from the local government. So they work together. And one thing that's really common in the smart city that we looked, for example, the 10 case studies, we have some funds, some cities like in Korea, for example, there's a lot of national funds where they get maybe 50% each side and the city puts some funds. So there's like this model that we saw there, but fund for a smart city that also might have some fund from innovation and so on. A very important or maybe interesting case also is called in Santander in Spain, where they get the funds from Europe. So as we remember, Europe had a lot of maybe regulation or maybe incentives in doing climate change, energy efficiency, sustainability, and so on. So the European Union had some funds where cities in Spain were applying, and Santander was able to get some funds for this sustainability and so on. And they did a lot of, things in the city, but this things like sensors, cameras, pilots, and so on. But in Santander, they use the funds from Europe, plus the funds from the municipality of Santander, plus they work with the private sector, like companies like Telefónica. It's a telephone carrier, or maybe NEC from Japan, and so on. So the thing of, I understand that the challenge that we're facing municipalities, sometimes the municipalities don't have enough fund to promote innovation, to do pilots, to really bring the best of technology for the cities, for the city in terms of really developing that. So again, we have Cordoba, again, for $1 million fund. That's something from the Inter-American Development Bank. We have things in Korea that depends on the city. They have maybe 50% or not. And we have Santander, that's a mix about 3 different organizations.
Yeah, thank you. If I am not mistaken, it was Horizon 2020 program, yes, which subsidized cities with grants on development of new technologies. Okay, I also have one question. Don't you have any, I want to say, resistance from population when cities trying to introduce new technologies, for example, cameras? I know very well in small Russian regions, if camera appears, it will be broken for sure, because people don't like when the big brother watches over them. So maybe you have something, cases from Latin America?
Right now, so we have like the organization, or maybe the security in the cities, they are from the state level and the municipal level, right? So we have 2 different things. The state level is more enforced with the police, with guns, and so on. The city level is mostly like administration or monitoring about the schools, about public spaces, this kind of gardens, healthcare center, and so on. So I think right now, I see people are not too much concerned about cameras. I think we got used to it. But I'll give you an example. Because of criminality, and sometimes you used to have people like guards in the streets just monitoring or making eye control about the criminality or people who are suspected. Right now, we see private companies implementing this kind of monitoring in the cities or maybe neighborhoods. So all of a sudden, you see a lot of cameras just popping up. You don't know who is responsible, who is monitoring, and so on. So this gives a lot of questions from a public society about that. But people are not going there say, I'm going to destroy this camera. So you go in a car in a specific city or in a specific street in a neighborhood, they're just capturing everything from you, from your car, your license plate, facial recognition, and so on. But I don't see this kind of reaction we are seeing right now. I remember there was a case in Toronto where I think Google was doing like a project called Sidewalk, where the local community just, they cancel or they veto all these kind of experiments of new technology because of privacy. So you are right, privacy is a very big challenge, and some people in the community, they might not like that.
Okay, thank you. I see that Professor Styrin has his hand raised.
Yeah.
Okay.
My dear Mauricio, thank you so much for this presentation, very inspiring. I have such a question. In your opinion, from what you said, and you touched upon different topics concerning security, disability, investments, climate change, can you name maybe one or two key digital technologies which will be the most important, maybe disruptive, maybe widely spread? When I say important, I'm not even sure what it could mean, but probably I try to interpret somehow that probably it's very much used or really disruptive in this current topic of smart cities. What is the key digital technologies for now, as you see?
Okay, so let me maybe review of what we discussed here. So we're saying we have digital transformation. Maybe I'll go a little bit later. So we started to do this digitization, right? Digitalization. So changing paper to digital documents, right? And Brazil has done a very maybe innovative way, because we started to do that in the 1980s, because of the financial market, inflation, so on. So this started like the transformation, the digital transformation, starting with the financial sector. That was the one with the funding, the money to really transform everything. From that, we move forward and we look about the smart cities, where cities were starting with the connectivity, getting connected, and then having solutions. And then with solutions, they were connecting one side to the other and so on. Then we go to content, the software, people exchanging documents, not much in PDF, or maybe using Word, or maybe use application, data, spreadsheet, and so on and so on. So this continues to move, where the municipality started to use a lot about information about taxes, about citizen, about healthcare, education, and so on. So what I see here is that we in the cities, or as a society, we're generating much many data, a lot of data. We call it the big data. So this is a way that the current situation, there's so many data that we cannot manage that. So the disruptive technology, the key technology that in my view is that cities have lots of data, they are continuing to generate data. However, they are not suited to analyze this data accordingly. So I can say that we are having cameras, we're having sensors, we're having traffic information, buses, GPS, and so on, so on, so on. So lots of information, or maybe lots of data, is being used to make it very short-term decisions. Okay, let's control the signal, traffic signal, let's do other things. But there is a lot of historic data that is not being analyzed right now, either for training, either for predictions, either for making better policy decisions in the future. So I see that there's a lot of data, or a lot of technology being used right now, but there's enormous potential to leverage the technology for analytics, big data analysis, artificial intelligence, machine learning, to really predict things, not only predict the flow of the traffic, but predict, for example, which student will try to skip class or really cancel the class, or maybe people who have different kind of diseases, how they can be prevented this kind of diseases. So things like that. So answering again in your question, I think there's many technologies that are being used right now. They're pretty good. There are many that will appear, but the major challenge that the major opportunity that I see in the near future is leveraging the data with this modern technology like machine learning, artificial intelligence, analytics.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Bosquella. Really a lot of opportunities for city managers when they have such data and commons projects who are ready to use it in proper way. Thank you very much again. And now we will go to the next report. Dr. Anna Sanina from the HEC University. Anna, the floor is yours.
So thank you very much. I will share the presentation. Can you see it?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. So about city managers. My presentation is called City Managers as Digital Transformation Leaders, a case of Russia. And I will present the results of our study that was conducted in our lab for digital transformation in public administration. And because we have a very deep sociological background, our interest is always to dig up to the grounds and to understanding what is happening in the real life in terms of people's comprehension and performance of digital transformation and their appreciation of projects that are developing by the government of different levels. And our study attempts to comprehend a public manager's individual role in the introduction of those digital tools at the lower level of governance. We decided to make this level a focus of our study because if there is a kind of a genius loci, like genius of the place in architect and urban planning, then we suggested that probably there is such a figure on the level of local communities when we are talking about digital government transformation. So we were wondering what are the institutional and maybe personal motivators that encourage city managers in framing digital transformation efforts, and also is it possible to find out, to identify barriers that temper those efforts in practice, and also the solutions that city managers use for overcoming those barriers. This problem is very interesting because when we are talking about digital government transformation, we used to think about a kind of significant project, and it changes public administration dynamics, it changes people's life, people's perception. When we are talking about these things, we mostly keep in mind federal and regional levels as a kind of centers of administrators and researchers' attention. Because all the programs, international ratings, like budgets, political statements, usually concerns macro regions or large world cities claiming themselves smart cities. However, digital government transformation at the local level, and it is proven by research, it can be also effective because there is people's demand for the highly available, efficient, and flexible public services that digital transformation can provide. And according to the local level, digital transformation is much less studied than regional one or at the level of big cities. However, as a goal of digital government transformation, smart city can be a goal for every city, no matter how small this city is. And in this, actually, this makes the situation of digital government transformation at the local level very challengeable, because the introduction of every digital tool, every digital technology suggests certain and significant financial investments, also development, new competencies, skills, knowledge for civil servants, for public managers and for citizens. And that is why there should be a figure of a leader who is inspired with such kind of changes and who is kind of not afraid of them, and who puts his or her efforts into implementing these at the local level despite the restrictions and resources.
Anna, I'm very sorry. You are still at the second slide.
Oh no, sorry.
Oh,
I forgot to change.
I see that picture doesn't change. Okay, okay. Thank you.
Digital transformation is complicated, and it still has a human face with it. And when we are talking about city managers, it is interesting to have them as an object of the research due to different reasons. First, the institutional city managers are really oriented to the effective work with local communities and for making their city really efficient and really progressive. And so, again, studies show that city managers worldwide use digital transformation as a tool for positive change and for the progressive development of the city. However, with city management, there is another problem. City management is an institution, and this is not just an institution, it is a transferred or adaptive institution. Because it was originally developed in the United States, and it was adopted by many countries later as a scheme for public policy design. These countries are very different. They are successful Scandinavian welfare states. These are like ideal type bureaucracies from continental Europe. These are mixed economies like Iran, and some developing countries as well. And studies show that in no matter what country is, the figure city manager is a person who adopts this original logic of the progressive city development and of the effective work. And at some point, those city managers institutionally, using this institutional framework, they come to the idea of digital transformation, and they use it for the community development. However, here we have some particular problem with Russian city management because in comparison to the United States and many European countries, the profession of city manager is relatively new for our country. Only in 2003, the federal law on general principles for the organizing of local government in Russian Federation was adopted. And among other things, it proposed a scheme according to these, to which municipal administration could be run by a hired manager called the city manager. a professional who is employed by a contract. And despite more than 20 years past seeing the adoption of this institution, and many things has happened with city managers. They were trying to change, they were trying to be cancelled. Still, this institution exists. And it is kind of institutional magic by itself, because Russian conditions are so different from the original conditions of city management institution. But still, we have these people who call themselves city managers and who adapt the principles and intention of progressive development of the local level. Sorry for this long introduction, but it was very important because the figure city manager itself is very important and strange and interesting in Russia. And we were wondering how do they deal with the idea of digital government transformation, because the local level is, of course, the less capable level in terms of our digital. Of course, it's not only Russian problem, and many studies were trying to analyze what pushes city managers to work under the pressure of digital transformation that comes from the digital transformation idea that comes from federal and regional level, and that gives them a lot of tasks and not so much resources. And from literature, we know that there are 3 types of motivation that leads city managers for doing the digital government transformation. First of all, it's formal motivation, like orientation to the state agenda, because city managers want to comply. Also, they're like driven by desire, and they see digital government transformation as their mission, because of course it helps to develop the community. And also there is a professional and strategic motivation, because without digital tools, you can't be accounted as a high-level professional in contemporary situation. With this background, we do not look at the digital government transformation as a task for itself. We look at it as a process, and this process could lead to a better city, and many city managers are called idea of city as their finance. And so with this process approach, we come to the methodology, and of course, because there are no studies, literally a few studies exist about city managers in general, and no studies about city managers in terms of digital government transformation. We started with a qualitative paradigm, and we conducted 47 online interviews with city managers from 25 regions of Russia. These are cities that are medium size or so our and they included 20,000 to 50,000 inhabitants. So there are some social demographic characteristics of our participants at the table. And I want to say that the interviews themselves were very, very interesting, because a lot of them were taken like undergo. Like they were in between the meetings, somewhere in the car, going to solve some problems and so on. Some just talked on the phone with us, and they even didn't have time for Zoom. So the process itself was interesting, and we had a lot of interview data. And so how did we proceed the data? I will show you our final framework, to which we came with the tool of flexible thematic analysis. Basically, we went through each interview, and with the computer-assisted program, MaxQDA, we coded each of them, and then we had more than 100 codes. Among them, we had the first quartile for deeper analysis, and out that deeper analysis, we had our keywords, in the first column. Then we worked on those keywords to form basic terms in spite of spinal rules of flexible thematic analysis. And out of them, performed organizing themes that are deeper and more abstract concepts. And out of them, they had 3 global themes that showed us what units are the most have the most concern and the most importance in terms of understanding how do city managers act as digital transformation leaders. And so these global themes are motivation, barriers, and actions to overcome these barriers. What results did we came to? First, what about digital technologies and how do city managers understand them? We had a little concern in the beginning that probably their understanding would be a little bit reduced because of that lack of resources, lack of potential movements of digitalization of the place and digital government transformation. However, all of our respondents linked digital government transformation with innovative, forward-looking governance, an area that local communities just begin to explore. They stressed it that they are just in the beginning, but they were very ambitious and they perceived digital government transformation as an inevitable process that has already started globally, and they were saying that it is already impacting the states and regions, and of course in the nearest future they were saying it would affect the local level, so it is better to be prepared. And as a particular technology that they might use in their for their local community development, they mentioned mobile technologies, social networks, and the Internet of Things, video cameras, by the way, augmented reality, cloud computing, big data, and governmental platforms. Also, they were naming blockchain and digital twin of their city and artificial intelligence. And city managers associated digital transformation with addressing the immediate concerns of individual. So they were saying that in the center of digital transformation, there is a problem. There is a problem that touch upon an individual's life, and the goal of digital transformation is to improving the quality of life. For example, there was an interesting example about parking places. They were suggested, the one city manager was suggested, so he suggested the project with a phone application that shows you free parking spaces. And he was saying about it that there is a man who, imagine that there is a man who's coming back from work and he's already tired, and the only thing he has to do, like a final step before going home, is to park his car. But as you know, if there is no room for cars in some places of the city, and so he's getting really mad at it. And then when he finally finds his spot, maybe it is too far from his home, he comes home and he's angry at everybody. And this affects his family life, and so his children, and so on and so on. And so he was referring to the quality of life and to some simple, he used the word simple, to simple tools that can help us to improve this quality of life. And he said that probably nobody would even think about it in terms of quality of life when we are introducing such kind of application, but for me as a city manager, it is very important. And so it is digital transformation for them is also about the responsibility for the community. Well, now let's talk about the voids, the barriers. So we remember about the motivation of city manager that we took from the literature, and one of them was the formal motivation when city manager was supposed to think about his or her efforts to implement digital transformation projects as kind of a general line of his or her government, and it's kind of a teamwork, for making the country better. Unfortunately, for our city managers, it is not like this, because they are overloaded with requests that are pretty formal from the higher level of governance, and they feel that they have too much responsibility on introducing some projects that they can't introduce in reality, but they can introduce on paper. They can make, and it is easier for them to make a formal report to a high level of governance that they are doing something, but not to do this in the reality. And it will be okay for them, like in a formal way, but not for them as they feel themselves as effective managers. So unlike the literature says us that there is a formal motivation, it is not the motivation for our Russian city managers. It is more like the institutional void or barrier. So then another one is another barrier is the insufficiency of different kinds of resources, like weakness of technological infrastructure, limited financial capability, lack of human resources, and lack of knowledge, skills, and necessary time, and everything to prepare those innovative projects that they are dreaming about.
Anna, I'm sorry, but I will be very grateful if you could finish your report in 2-3 minutes.
Yes, sure. I'm finishing. And the third barrier, the third void is the community itself, because we are talking about small and medium-sized cities, and city managers said that people, especially young people, tend to move from those cities. So there is no kind of need to implement those great digital transformation projects for those who will be living in the near future and who is dreaming about living. And my final slide will be without overcoming the challenges and what city managers are doing, actually doing for implementing those digital government transformation projects. So first, these are self-directed actions and learning. They learn a lot. And here, the most encouraging things are doing those city managers who have engineering background, who has any practice in programming, or who has friends, not friends, good colleagues whom they can implement into those projects. Also, they say that it is important to develop the community engagement and communication, and they are developing online chats, different contact pages, like social networks, to truly involve the community into the projects that they might implement with their resources. And of course, another action is dealing with higher level of government and the strategic resource allocation, because there is a mismatch between the requests and possibilities. And the final thing, I would say that there is one crucial barrier that almost all the city managers mentioned that cannot be bypassed by any practice available by city managers, and this barrier is social vacuum. But a social vacuum starts when there are two processes. The first one is that the community do not believe in city managers' attempts and potential. And at the same time, city manager does not believe in his or her community. That in this situation, no development is possible, and especially digital government transformation projects are not possible. Okay, so here I will finish, and as a final remark, probably I would say that today in Russia, because of that institutional flawed and all theoretical assumption, the city manager still represents himself or herself as a kind of a hero. But we need to restructure many things, starting with institutional ones and finishing with social and social psychological, maybe, because digital transformation in local level is the digital transformation that starts with people.
Okay, thank you very much, Anna, for the very interesting report, and congratulations on such a powerful study. We all know how it's hard to conduct interviews, especially with city managers.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my congratulations. And we really think that the role of mayors in promoting innovations in small and medium-sized cities just can't be overestimated. Together with Tatiana, I think 1 month ago or something like that, we had an interview with the mayor of Innopolis, Tatarstan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's completely different view on city management. Really, people on the first place of the center of this of all the processes which Mauricio mentioned. Yes. So I have just one question. Maybe have you tried to find any correlations between the active role of city managers in the introduction of new technologies and the trust of citizens to them?
So it would be good to find any correlation, I mean, methodologically, but our study was the qualitative one, so we couldn't possibly do it. But actually, in the interviews, the trust was a word that sounded many times, and of course, it would be interesting to look at the connection, but now I can only speak about my suggestions, not the correlation, because we couldn't do it in the qualitative study. It would be interesting to make the quantitative one, of course, but again, the resources.
Yeah, I think it would be just great because it's very important for people to
Yeah,
be here.
sure.
Yes. And if we could prove such hypothesis, it will be just great. Okay, thank you very, very much. I think we will go next to our next report. Please, Tatiana, you are welcome.
Hey, dear colleagues, let me share my screen with you. A minute. Mhm.
Tatiana, I
Please.
see that your connection is medium, so maybe you will turn off your video and it will be better.
Okay.
But we can see the slides. That's great.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to participate in this session. It's a pleasure for me to present the results of a study that we prepared together with my colleagues from the Russian Cluster Observatory, Evgeny Kutsenko and Victoria Boas. This research is devoted to metaverse projects and their application in public services. I will start with the background of the study. I couldn't change my slide. Oh, okay. I will start with the preconditions of the study. Metaverse projects have become especially popular in the last 3 years. According to Google Trends, search volume of metaverses are ahead of cryptocurrencies and artificial intelligence. And the surge in attention to metaverses occurred in 2021 when Facebook and then other tech giants such as Microsoft, Epic Games, Huawei, and so on announced the development of their own metaspaces. The trend from technology corporations has spread to cities and public services. Today, the concept of the metaverse doesn't have clear contours. For example, according McKinsey, metaverses will combine digital and physical life, creating a sense of presence. The European Commission describes metaverses as the three-dimensional digital environment using virtual reality and augmented reality technologies in which people can communicate, collaborate, conduct business and cultural and entertainment events. Some experts believe that the metaverse will improve the efficiency of city management. However, urban metaverse projects still do not have a clear framework due to their experimental nature and the novelty of technologies they're based on. The purpose of the study is to systematically review existing projects of urban metaverse projects and to form a realistic image of the urban metaverse using Moscow as an example. The development of urban metaverse projects today occurs in 3 main directions. First, metaverses which combine the urban environment of a real city and a variety of services within one platform. Second, virtual non-existent cities with a certain functional content. And third, digital twins of cities which are used for territory planning, testing solutions, and are updated in real time. Dubai is one of the world's first virtual metropolises where participants can take part in public events, develop communities, and expand their businesses. The platform allows to buy and sell digital real estate in the form of non-fungible tokens. The Dubai Metaverse strategy was developed in 2022 to encourage innovation in the areas of mixed, augmented and virtual reality, Web3, and digital twins. It is expected that these technologies will be used in tourism, education, retail, healthcare, entertainment, and will help strengthen cooperation between government and business representatives. The next project is Metaverse Seoul. Among the proposed functions of this metaverse are the provision of government services, digital tourism, educational services. In addition, in the meta space are represented the Seoul Financial Technology Laboratory, which activities are aimed at creating a virtual fintech cluster and providing remote consultation for businesses. Also, the Invest Seoul Center agency, which supports the development of foreign startups in Seoul, virtual university campus with free access to educational programs, and also virtual copies of tourist attractions. The next one is American Meta Center Orlando, created by the city administration in partnership with game developer Unity Technologies. This metaverse is high precision 3D panorama of the city, covering an area of more than 2,000 square kilometers. The virtual copy is created for use by authorities, investors, local companies, non-profit companies, and other stakeholders as a tool for urban planning and infrastructure development, as well as for shaping technology image of the city and attracting talent. Shanghai also has a digital twin, virtual city covering an area of about 3,800 square kilometers. It is used to manage the city, plan the territory, regulate traffic flows, and also demonstrate future city facilities to residents. The virtual city features more than 20 iconic tourist landmarks. Singapore digital twin used by authorities to develop infrastructure, optimize building design and energy consumption, create scenarios for territory development, and also prevent natural disasters. The use of digital twin technology allowed Singapore to save $20 million in its budget by reducing topographic surviving costs. The Matryoshka Renaissance metaverse was launched in Russia in 2022. It is a three-dimensional virtual city created by the immersive communication agency New Reality for holding business, educational, and entertainment events. This metaverse project is not associated with a specific city, but is an ecosystem that is aimed at developing creative, innovative, and entrepreneurial activity, and also interregional cooperation. There is a different range of services for government agencies and businesses. For example, local and regional authorities can order virtual pavilion to interact with residents. Business can create a virtual representative office or a virtual showroom with its products. If we consider the emergence of metaverses as a new stage in the evolution of cities, then forecasting scenarios for their future development should be based on the main conceptual approaches to urbanization. Studies from different eras, which are still relevant, highlight the following functions of the city, which are transformed under the influence of metaverse. So they are the city as a place to live, the city as a communication platform, the city as a trading platform, as a place of public good consumptions and service provision, and as a space for leisure and self-realization. In particular, the conceptual view of the city as a place to live is described in works of Ernest Burgess, Henri Lefebvre, and Edward Glaser. For example, Edward Glaser found that in the city, the person receives more benefits and conveniences per monetary unit than anywhere else. Today, metaverse projects make it possible to study the key parameters of city life, but in the future, A promising continuation of their functionality may be the integration of planning tools and scenarios, modeling for the special development of the city, testing of new city routes, conducting environmental stress test, fitting of buildings, public spaces, art objects, and so on. The next conceptual view is the city as a communication platform. This concept become one of the fundamental that explains the emergence of cities, starting at least with the model of Greek city-states. The separation of social context from traditional urban spaces during the COVID pandemic made it possible to verify a number of advantages of communication in virtual environment. So future functionality may include social network for the urban metaverse users, services for finding business partners, including within innovation clusters, special digital citizenship programs to attract residents from other countries, service for search of contractors for city projects within the framework of public-private partnership, and also for conducting Forsait sessions with advanced analytics and visualization tools. The trading platform is another conceptual look at the city described in particular in the classic work of Walter Christoller. Within this direction, urban metaverse services can develop along the path of attracting new brands in the field of retail and consumer services, implementation of co-branding programs with well-known manufacturers of goods and services with the participation of the city. In addition, the city is considered as a place of consumption of public goods and provision of services. This idea has been developed into the modern concept city as a service. Within this direction, the metaverse can become a place of government service provision for citizens, small and medium-sized businesses, including consulting services, acceleration activities, providing preferential advertising spaces. Educational services can also be developed within the metaverse by using virtual simulators and situational modeling. The next conceptual approach is the city as a space for leisure and self-realization. Among perspective options are organization of mass cultural and entertainment city events, creative and inclusive environment for people with disabilities, development of digital tourism, including reconstruction of cultural heritage sites. Moscow, along with Shanghai, Seoul, and Dubai, can be classified as a pioneer cities in the development of metaverses. In Moscow, there is a digital copy used by the Moscow government for planning construction projects. And in 2023, the Meta Moscow platform was announced. It currently has the following functionality, such as digital tourism, attending virtual events, networking. Based on the study of foreign experience and conceptual views on the city, we have developed some recommendations. They include the following solutions, providing digital ecosystem to organizations, universities, cultural and leisure institutions, involving residents in decision-making in the field of city improvement and transport infrastructure, navigation for investors, holding key city events with involvement of foreign participants, connecting residents of the Moscow Innovation Cluster, integration of residents into virtual city social network, virtualization of key Moscow trading platforms, integration of the metaverse with cloud software for technology companies, startups, engineers, and designers, creation of gamified 3D classes for city schools, development of interactive language courses for immigrants. What are the main conclusions? First of all, today, most urban metaverses projects are pilot in nature, and among the limitations of their development are insufficiently high internet speeds, the high cost of data processing centers, and the difficulty of preventing cyber threats, insufficient number of highly qualified specialists in the field of computer programming, and also in 3D modeling, animation, UX and UI design, virtual and augmented reality, blockchain, and so on. Then development costs for metaverse projects amount to billions of dollars, while the social and economic effects of urban metaverse have not insufficiently studied due to the lack of an empirical basis. And finally, the popularity of a particular platform depends on the unique value it can offer. Since there are no special and temporal costs for users. At this point, I would conclude my speech. Thank you for your attention.
Tatiana, thank you very much for a very structured and case-rich report. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time, but still I have one big question to all our discussants. But first, a little story. Maybe you know that we're measuring innovation in cities, and we have 3 pillars: technology development, creative industries, and urban environment. And what we see when we are comparing top 10 and bottom 10 cities from our ranking, it's 200 cities. We see that urban environment different not so much. But when we are looking at technological side and creative industries, the gap is very huge, almost 30 and 60 times. And recently we visited one big person from one city and discussed with him how to develop innovations in his city. And he said to us that he has a smart city concept, and he will buy best technologies from any other countries, no matter the cost, because he can. But as economist, I know that that's has some problems. You need to not only to buy technologies from abroad, but also to create your ones, to support your businesses, technology companies, and so on. And I think that it's a big problem, because when we talk about implementing new technologies in public administration, we always don't talk about developing of your own companies. And sometimes people who are responsible for these parts, technological development and urban environment, they are different. So they have different goals, contradictory goals, as I see. And what do you think, what we can do with this? Please, Mr. Boskela, what do you think?
Thank you. I think, I think it's still showing the sharing presentation here. But I think, everything starts with what's the problem we're trying to solve in the cities, right? And based on the challenges, we're going to find a solution. Sometimes we look for solutions that are outside. Sometimes really reinventing the wheel is not really the best, maybe return on investment. But once you decide, I would say, like maybe in the software industry, in the analytics, etc., we're looking for our own solution because it's very customized to your needs. And this also brings a lot of challenges in having enough qualified people to develop them. You need to have the change management. You have also the cost and something related to that. Developing a startup ecosystem where you have ecosystem from the academy, the private sector, and also startups and maybe government and so on, trying to solve the major solution. I think that's really very important. We have a concept called open innovation, where you have some challenge, you try to look outside and really looking for things outside your company or your government, but looking at things that you really understand the culture, understand the language and so on. That is really a very, very important asset. We did some cases where we developed some projects in cities in Brazil, where we hired local PhD or local people from the university to help the municipality and develop new solutions, pilot projects, and so on. So I think in general is understanding the problems that we're facing, looking for solutions. Sometimes they're available outside, but also we can look and develop things inside, or maybe a combination of both areas.
Okay, thank you very much. Anna, what do you think?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yeah, I would generally agree with Professor Buscella, because when we're just trying to adopt any technology that we can afford, it is not a solution to any problem. Yeah, the first step is always to understand the problem and the needs the problems that we solve and the needs that we need to fulfill with these or that projects. Yeah. And unfortunately, the social side of interaction of any authorities and the community is still under investigation, especially in Russia, but also it's not just our local national problem, because you asked about the correlation between the trust and efficiency of new technologies, for example, at the local level. It would be great to study, but it is really hard to implement. I mean, methodologically, and it is hard to talk to city managers and any level of civil servants as well. But the community is also not used to talk about and be really self-reflected about their needs. So there are a lot of complicated things when we are talking about social angle of these processes. But I think that workshops like these should be leading academic events to raise up this problem and the importance of these studies to develop these projects, because otherwise they won't be successful at all.
Yeah, thank you, Anna. Totally agree with you. Okay, Tatiana, please.
Okay, thank you, Kirill, for the question. I think it is important to support local companies, maybe by develop venture market, different programs of pilot innovations, develop public-private partnership, because purchasing technologies, it is a path that limited the development of local companies. So I think that priority should be given to local entrepreneurs and technologies.
Thank you very much. Okay, dear all, I am very grateful for your participation in our today's session. I am sure that we will be able to discuss a number of important questions today and take another look at the many challenges and problems associated with the introduction of the new technologies in city management. Thank you very much for your participation, and I want to say that in 15 minutes we will have another session dedicated to Forsaight studies, Forsaight agenda setting and tracking results. Thank you very much for your work. I hope that we will see you soon. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you for interesting session. Goodbye.
Bye.